Welcome to the Commander's Vault. My name is Joe. It is storming outside and we're inside the shop. So let's do a deck tech over my absolute favorite deck, Ramos Dragon Engine, built a way that you would not expect. Hey guys, my name is Joe and I am an Army veteran who likes to play a lot of Magic, so much so that I bought my own shop along with some of my friends. And I use my military tactics to help build commander decks in Magic the Gathering. And today I want to share with you the first deck that I actually had a passion project for and I absolutely wanted to do in every way possible. And it all started not with this card, but with the very first Transformers card I got out of the Brothers War. As soon as I found out they did Transformers, I had to go get every single one and then figure out how to put them in a deck. And in that same pack, I got Ramos Dragon Engine. Now, Ramos Dragon Engine, in case you don't know, he is a legendary artifact creature dragon. Whenever you cast a spell, put a 1/1 counter on Ramos Dragon Engine for each of that spell's colors. And then you can remove 5 and you get Wooburg ×2. And you can only activate that once each turn. Now, there are a lot of ways to build this broken. I've looked at some of those different ways. I even had one build where I have Progenitus in here, and it was just get as many counters on him, boom, Progenitus win. But I wanted this to be a fun deck, and this deck is one that I'll play in my casual league if I just want to have fun and don't really care about winning that night, or if I'm in a pod with some medium, mid-range power decks. This isn't a crazy powerful deck. This is just a fun deck. So let's get into it, guys. So Ramos Dragon Engine. As I said, we are running all the Transformers. I did not get all the stained glass ones. Some of those are really expensive, but we are running all of them. So first up, this was the one that I pulled, Optimus Prime. When I saw Optimus, I went, yep, I need to have this done. So we got Optimus, Megatron, Ultra Magnus, Blaster, Goldbug, Cyclonus, Ratchet, Soundwave. And something fun with Soundwave is, yes, I got both of his tokens also. Slicer. Out of all of these, Slicer's turned into probably one of the most used cards. He's even a CEDH commander. Blitzwing, Flame War, Jetfire, Prowl, Starscream, and Archie. So when I opened that pack and I got Optimus, I went out and I needed to get every single one of these. So I went and got all of the Transformers. The problem was none of them had all 5 colors, hence Ramos. Also, you can't have a deck with 14 Transformers and Ramos and expect it to do anything. They are artifact creatures, they are vehicles, and they are double-sided. Every single one of these has a flip side on it. And so when I looked at that, I decided, okay, how can we build around that to have some fun with this deck and be able to cast things? So first things we did, we looked at, okay, this is an artifact deck, so let's put some of the staples for artifact decks in here. So Ethereum Sculptor, artifacts cost 1 less. Starheim Courser, artifacts and enchantments cost 1 less. Sten, Paranoid Partisan. When he enters the battlefield, you can choose a card other than a creature or a land, and spells of the chosen type cost 1 less to cast. So you choose Artifact. Artifacts are 1 less to cast. Rashimi and Ragavan. This was the artifact deck backup commander for a March of Machines commander deck. And when you start to look at this, you can see, all right, we're starting to create tokens, we're starting to create treasures, and you can start to cast these things for free if you need to. Tetsun Gnome Champion, when this guy got printed in Ixalan, on his backside, he can flip artifacts that have two sides. So whenever he attacks, you can transform up to one other target double-faced artifact you control, and you create 2 colorless gnome artifact creature tokens. Every single transformer is a double-faced artifact. So if we can get him flipped, then we can start converting our transformers for free, and that's just a lot of fun. Ornithopter of Paradise, Artifact Mana Rock. Emery, this lets us mill and get artifacts out of our graveyard. Saheeli, Sun's Brilliance. I wasn't sure on this one, but when you actually read it and take a look, create a token that's a copy of another target creature or artifact you control, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. It gains haste, sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So you can use this on any of your transformers or other artifacts to get the same benefit that you would get. They only last for that turn, but sometimes you don't need more than that turn. Lauren, Disciple of History. Again, whenever another legendary creature enters the battlefield under my control, I can return an artifact from the graveyard to my hand. Master Transmuter. This is just a cheaty way. This is the biggest cheaty way to get the heavy costing artifacts that we have onto the battlefield. So the trick is you have this in play. Your next turn, you pay 1, tap it, bounce back a cheap artifact, play a super expensive artifact for free, then play that other artifact. It makes it super fun to do. All right, then we got Gandalf. This allows you to cast all your stuff with Flash. Never underestimate the power of Flash, and it does the additional triggers. Joyra. She just card draw. Card advantage is so important in the game. Card draw. Urza, Lord Protector. Artifacts, instants, and sorceries cost 1 less. Plus, I do have the Might Stone and the Weak Stone, so we can convert him into the Uber Planeswalker Urza. Then we have Urza, Chief Artificer. Affinity for artifacts and creatures. Artifact creatures have menace, so it gives all of our transformers menace. And at the beginning of the end step, you create a construct, and it gets a 1/1 for each artifact. So if he stays on the field, he just continues to churn more constructs out. Speaking of constructs, we have the Karns. So we have Karn Legacy Reforged. His power and toughness are equal to the greatest mana value among artifacts you control. We have some 8 and 9 cost artifacts. If nothing else, he'll be a 5/5. And at the beginning of your upkeep, add colorless mana for each artifact you control. This mana can't be spent to cast non-artifact spells, and you don't lose mana as your steps and phases end. So you can start accumulating colorless mana that everything is artifacts. It's super easy to cast. Karn Silver Golem. Whenever he blocks or becomes blocked, it gets a -4/+4 till end of turn. And you can also make a target non-creature artifact into an artifact with its power and toughness equal to its casting cost until end of turn. These are kind of fun sometimes. Lodestone Golem. This just makes all the non-artifact stuff cost more. We're an artifact deck, so we don't care. And Meteor Golem. Meteor Golem, when he enters the battlefield, destroy target non-land permanent an opponent controls. So what happens is he comes down, destroys a non-land permanent. They don't like that. They get rid of him. He goes to the graveyard. You cast something. You bring him back to your hand. You play him again. And it's a kind of fun way to do things. All right, so let's actually talk about the artifacts in the deck. You would think we would have more artifacts than we do here, but when you consider that actually 2/3 of all of the creatures in the deck are artifacts, that's still quite a bit. So we have our standard mana rocks here. We have Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Mind Stone, and then we have a bunch of the Talismans. Talismans of Conviction, Talisman of Cruelty, Selesnya Signet, Simic Signet, Cloud Key. Again, artifacts make them cheaper. Tamio's Logbook. You tap this to draw a card. It costs 1 less to activate for each artifact you control. We'll have at least 5 artifacts, so it's 1 blue to draw. Not bad. Quicksilver Amulet. This is nasty. You can pay 4, tap it, and then drop down a creature from your hand. So things like the Meteor Golem won't cost 7 mana. They'll cost 4 mana. And then the Might Stone and the Weak Stone. This, when you convert with Urza, turns them into a giant planeswalker, which we'll set that up for you guys in case you haven't seen that before. All right, so if you have both of these, you get to convert it and turn him into this giant planeswalker of legendary planeswalker Urza. You can activate the loyalty abilities of Urza twice each turn rather than only once. Artifact, instant, and sorcery spells you cast this turn cost 2 less to cast, and you gain 2 life. Draw 2 cards, discard a card. Create 2 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature tokens. 3, exile target non-land permanent or -10 artifacts and planeswalkers you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Destroy all non-land permanents. Absolutely nuts. So this gives all your stuff indestructible, destroys everything else, and then allows you to swing. If you can get this online, it is pretty bonkers. The likelihood of getting this online is very low. It's very hard to do. You have to control both of them. So it says you have to pay 7, and if you control both Urza and the Might Stone and Weak Stone, you exile them and bring them back. You can only do it as a sorcery. It will get countered if anybody is keeping stuff up. If someone sees that you have enough mana to cast the 5 mana drop Might Stone and Weak Stone and the 3 mana drop Urza and still pay 7 more mana to get the melding, this is one of the most telegraphed things in Magic, and it's kind of crazy. If you can pull it off, that is great. But the likelihood of pulling it off, unless people just want to see a cool thing happen, is very, very low. I have never pulled it off in a game, ever. All right, so now let's talk about our enchantments. We're not running a whole bunch of enchantments, but we are running some good ones. So we have the Artificer class. We have a lot of artifacts. Makes them cost 1 less. And then as you upgrade, it just keeps getting better and better and better. Kindred Discovery. This is a Kindred deck or tribal deck. It's almost all artifacts, so we'll choose artifact creatures when they come in. And then whenever a creature you control with the chosen type enters the battlefield or attacks, you get to draw a card. So not if you cast one, it just has to enter the battlefield. Virtue of Knowledge. These virtues are really good. Target activated ability or triggers an additional time. Maelstrom Nexus. We are running a 5-color deck. So if we could get something like this down, the first spell each turn has Cascade. Cascade's never a bad thing for free casting, especially when we've got some of the higher cost artifacts in our deck. All right, the sorceries we're running. Kind of a theme with Urza here. I did take out Urza Lord High Artificer. He is my CEDH commander. He was too powerful in this deck. It took this deck away from being fun to play to just being too dominant to play. So that's why he came out. And it ended up being more of a focus of getting Urza out than it was getting the Transformers out. But we have the other 2 Urzas. Alright, so we have March of Progress. Choose target artifact creature you control. For each creature chosen this way, create a token that's a copy of it, and you can overload to make that happen to all artifact creatures that you have. So that's a win con. You just do this. It costs 7 mana, and then you get to pick something and make a copy of it, or you pick everything and make copies of it. This is one of your like overwhelming win cons. Delete. This one was so fun when we pulled this in the Doctor Who stuff, we just started busting up laughing. Every time I cast this, it just makes me happy. Delete deals X damage to each non-artifact creature and each player. So it's not just you're taking out the artifacts, but you're taking out the creatures, but you're taking out the players too. I laugh every time I cast this. Cultivate, just ramp. Cerebral Confiscation. This was from Karlov Manor. Target opponent discards 2 cards. Target opponent reveals their hand. You can choose a non-land card from that. That player discards that card. We don't have a ton of interaction in this deck. This is one of the ways that we can interact at sorcery speed. Organic Extinction. Destroy all non-artifact creatures. This is one of our board wipes, and we can use our artifacts to help cast this. As I said, we're not running a ton of interaction. This is a more casual, fun deck, but we do have some. So we're running Abrade, Demand Answers, Out Cold. This is one of the ones that just can't be countered. You get to tap 2 creatures, put a stun counter on them, and then we create a token. Urza's Command. This one is just another fun thing to do. Is an Urza themed card. It does cost 4 mana, but you get to choose 2 things. It's a modal spell. You can create tapped Power Stone tokens. You can create more constructs. You can scry and draw. You can make everything else have -2, -0 that isn't yours. Just a fun card to have. Toxin Analysis. Again, this is one of those great ones. If you're attacking and then they throw up a blocker, you can throw this on it, give it Death Touch and Lifelink, and you create a token. Slice from the Shadows. This is another uncounterable. Gets -X, -X till end of turn. Radiance Judgment. Either a cycling card or you can destroy any of the big stuff. Vanish into Eternity. You can exile target non-land permanent. If you're going after a creature, it costs 3 more. This is great for exiling enchantments and artifacts. Surge of Salvation. Gain hexproof, prevent all damage from black and white. Generous Gift. They get an elephant. So that's the interaction. Those are our instant speeds. We're running quite a few basic lands, as you guys can see. Quite a few basic lands. Not running any fast mana. This is, I would say, on par. This is a little bit stronger than a precon. There's some stronger cards in here than precons have. But I would say it is just above precon strength, except for a few pieces here and there. So the utility lands that we have the Urza land cycle. And I know with Modern Horizons 3, they're bringing out some new Urza lands. So I'll have to look at that. But we have Urza's Mine, Urza's Tower, and Urza's Power Plant. So each of these tap for colorless mana unless you control 2 of them. Then they tap for 2. But if you have Urza's Tower, then it taps for 3. So these, if you get all 3 of these online, this is a great way to really build up mana fast. All right, Reliquary Tower. We're going to draw a lot of cards with this, and it's just another utility land. Demolition Field, colorless mana, but you can sack it, and you can destroy any non-basic lands. And then we've got some artifact lands. We've got the Rustfell Bridge, Mist Vault Bridge, Tanglepool Bridge, and Slagwood Bridge. So those are still artifacts, but they're also lands, so they count towards your artifacts as well. And then we're running Windscarred Heath, Swiftwater, Bloodfell, and Grapefelt Refuge. All of these give us life as they enter. And that, guys, is my Ramos Dragon Engine Transformers deck. So Ramos Dragon Engine is a great utility commander. He lets me have Wooburg for the Transformers that I wanted to run. And the really fun thing about it is there's sometimes where I never cast this, but if I'm a little bit slow on stuff, I can bring him out, especially with all of the cost reduction we have for artifacts. It is not very uncommon for me to have at least 1, if not 2, and sometimes 3 of the artifact cost reductions, it feels great to cast this guy for 3 or 4 and get him out on the field. And even if he gets removed, you have a chance to bring him back with all those reductions. Those reductions usually get rid of the commander tax, so he very often doesn't end up costing more than 6 to come out onto the battlefield. And if nothing else, he's a 4/4 flyer that gets around a lot of stuff. And every time you play a multicolor spell, he's getting at least 2 counters if you're multicolored, and he's getting a counter for every other spell you cast. We don't have very many colorless things in here, so he ends up getting really big really fast. I've had it happen several times that I already had the 5 counters within 1 or 2 turns of him being out, and people didn't remove him in time, and I created 10 mana. 10 mana is a lot of mana that's free. So guys, I hope you like this video. I hope you like this content. If there's any other decks you'd like to see that I haven't shown yet, or you'd like to see another one again, please don't hesitate to comment down below. We do have a really fun deck that was a pet project for my wife that I'll show you guys next. But guys, today, Transformers Ramos deck. We hope you guys enjoyed. If you do, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. I appreciate every single one of you. And as I always say, support your local game shops. Go in there, play, grab a deck, buy some packs, buy singles, shuffle up, find a group, and play. And we'll see you guys next time.